It's time for the Bill Ferguson Show.
This is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to the cleverly titled The Phil Ferguson Show. Thank you for joining me today. We've got a lot going on. This will include an interview with Rob Palmer, a friend of mine, and he goes over this amazing collection of data of psychic predictions and how well they did. Not well, I'll tell you. So that's going to be a lot of fun to hear about the details and how thorough it was. And none of the psychics saw this coming, apparently. So that's going to be really fun. For the Investing Skeptically segment, it's an update to the story of Schwab buying TD Ameritrade. Good for general information for all listeners, but extra important for anyone that has an account at TD Ameritrade or uses Polaris Financial Planning. Thank you. Just some updates and information on when things are going to happen there. I feel I'm perfectly comfortable and think that they're competent and this is going to work out, unlike some things like Twitter. So let me transition to that. The Twitter shit show continues. I don't know if Elon has gone completely out of his mind, or he was always out of his mind, but it's different when you build a company, or at least you're involved with the company early on, versus coming into a company that already exists and has a culture that apparently he doesn't want. I think we're at the point now where something like half of the staff quit. And the weird thing often in companies like this, the people that leave first are the people that can leave first. They have either set money aside so they're not living paycheck to paycheck, or they have other job opportunities and they've left quickly to take them. And then he issued an ultimatum, I don't even remember the phrasing, that they had to work super hard, or over here it is, extremely hardcore, whatever that means. And they had about 5 p.m., I think yesterday or the day before, to decide if they were going to work extremely hardcore. If not, they should just leave. And 75% of the people that were left, after he already cut half, so let's see, you have half the employees and then 75% of the half left. That means you're down to like 12.5% of the employees that you used to have. And I'm guessing a good chunk of those are just there for the paycheck until they get found and booted out. There are stories coming out of one facility. Everything was shut down, including the gate across the parking lot. So former employees couldn't even leave the property, and someone had to bring in a hacksaw or a sawzall to cut off the gate. I mean, maybe this didn't really happen, but it's hysterical to hear. I went to log on to Twitter myself this morning, and it doesn't look healthy. And it asked me for my birthday to get in. No fucking way. At this point, I think Twitter is pretty much dead. If not, it's needing life support, critical condition. And at this pace, in a day or two, it's going to be gone. Just poof, lights out. 44 billion up in smoke, because who's going to advertise on it? Everyone that is owed money by Twitter wants their money faster now, so the cash flow is a problem, but no one's going to advertise. And anyone who's going to advertise is going to want to pay less because people are leaving the platform in droves. I would leave myself if I could get in and close my account without having to confirm some personal data, which is, I think, the point that we're at here. So I'm just they got what they got about me, and hopefully that doesn't lead to a problem. And thankfully, by using additional software, I have unique passwords, really long and complicated passwords for everything, and they're all unique. So they can have that password, they can have my Twitter. Until I tell you otherwise, I can't access my Twitter account. So there's that. Anyway, good fun going on with that. The other thing that may be not as big, but also fun to talk about, there is this FTX, the crypto exchange firm, crypto holding firm, where you could put your crypto and rest it so that it was secure and not in your own house on your own hard drive or jump drive, and they would protect it. And sometimes these companies, I don't know if FTX was doing this, where they promise you generous returns on your holdings. And I haven't seen these for a while, but maybe I just don't go to the right places, where you can put your cryptocurrency somewhere and they'll pay you 1% a month or 12% a year or 10% a year or 20% a year. Are you fucking serious? If you think that's how it works, go for it. Because I'm telling you, it doesn't. That says, what do we call that? Like Bernie Madoff, a Ponzi scheme. When you have really high returns that can't be accounted for, and they talk about not having risk, those things together should scare you enough. The fact that it's with crypto should scare you more. The fact that the company is or was, if it still even exists, was based in the Bahamas should scare you more. I don't know what to tell you. So hopefully no listeners of mine had any cryptocurrency, period, but hopefully you didn't have any cryptocurrency held by, I've got my radio air quotes up, held by FTX, because they weren't fucking holding it. They were using it and leveraging it and putting options on it and margin and all kinds of games. And the reports that have come out, the more reports I hear, the worse it gets. I do now expect a 100% complete and total cataclysmic failure of FTX. And at the end of the day, it will have more debts and more missing money and more stolen money than it can come up with. And you're going to probably get nothing out of it ever if you had money there. And that includes people that had the FTX coins, their magic coins. They held your accounts. Whatever it is you were doing with the FTX, it's bad. No record keeping, employees buying multi-million-dollar homes in the Bahamas, money disappearing. And of course, last week when it went to go offline to protect what they did have, there was another theft of $600 million allegedly. And I wonder, what's the line between theft and embezzlement? Did some of the employees know how to get to the coins and move them to their own accounts, and they're going to sell them for actual money, something like dollars or euros somewhere else? I don't know. It'll be investigated for years, and maybe we'll get a couple of nice movies out of it, like there are the Bernie Madoff movies. So the question, of course, is, are other crypto exchanges like this? I don't know. But I tell you what, if the other cryptocurrency exchanges even do 10 or 15%, 5% of what FTX did, knowing now that people are going and pulling their coins out and putting them in what's called cold storage, which means on your own hard drive or on your own jump drive or thumb drive, so that the exchange can't steal it, means that the other places are going to have runs on their money too. This is like that you've seen in old-timey movies where everyone in town runs to the bank to take out all of their money, and the very fact that everyone goes to take out all of their money at the same time doesn't work, because banks generally hold only a fraction of the cash on hand because they've got the money and it's invested in places. I mean, remember the movie, oh my God, what is it? It's a Wonderful Life. Remember the run on the bank, because the bank has money and businesses and homes and all that stuff. So the money isn't sitting there. And it's probably the same way with these crypto exchanges. The money isn't sitting there. So if people do a run on Crypto.com or Binance or whatever, they're also going to have to halt withdrawals because the money isn't there. And that may not be anything bad or illegal, but who knows, there might be. But assuming nothing bad or illegal, if a bunch of people go and take all their currencies out, all their cryptocurrencies out, the company doesn't have the cryptocurrencies on hand to give back to you because they've lent them out. Otherwise, why would they do what they're doing? They don't just hold your stuff for free. They're trying to make money off of it. If that happens, and of course in cold storage, in your own hard drive or your own jump drive, you have to make sure you don't lose it. It doesn't get thrown away. It doesn't get recycled. You have to remember your super mega long key for security to be able to log into it. All these things are not problems with the actual system of money that we have. So you're creating all these problems for something that has no real value, in my opinion. But anyway, that's some updates with crypto. That's collapsing. Twitter's collapsing. So just interesting times, I guess. But let's take a quick break and go into the show.
We do not accept that there is a God or gods, personal or in nature, manifesting himself, herself, itself, or themselves in any way. We do not accept the idea of heaven, hell, perdition, purgatory, or any other of these stages reached by escalator going either up or down. We do not accept that there is any life after death. We do not accept miracles. We do not accept the idea of angels, spooks, goblins, gremlins, leprechauns, elves, or souls. We simply do not accept that anyone at any time was ever a prophet of God who did not exist or which did not exist. We do not accept any so-called holy books as guides to life, and that includes the Bible, the Torah, the Veda, the Koran, the Upanishads, the Awaspi, they invent them constantly. We don't care whether that book was written by anyone in history, in any age in history, whether that was written by Moses, Mary Baker Eddy, Paul, Joseph Smith, Mohammed, Gautama Buddha, or the fickle finger of fate.
You're listening to The Bill Ferguson Show.
This is a Schwab update. Sometimes I talk about things that are time-specific, and this is one of those, although we have close to a year, so don't panic. But this is information for anyone that has accounts at TD Ameritrade, which, of course, as I hope you know by now, has been bought by Schwab a couple of years ago, and everything that had to do with registered investment advisors, people like myself, Polaris Financial Planning, nothing has really changed. I mean, there's been a few things, but now we have a timeline when more things will change. And for the most part, I think it's good. It's going to be fine. I just went to a webinar a day or two ago, put on by Schwab and TD Ameritrade, talking about what's going to happen and what the timeline is going to be in calendar year 23. At this moment, they are expecting to do the final changeover Labor Day weekend, and that is the first weekend in September. And so September 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, because of the holiday, everything will be closed with TD Ameritrade anyway, because it's a holiday weekend, but that's when they're going to do the official switchover, and everything will be on Schwab only, with exceptions. There's always exceptions, but you will be a Schwab customer effective September 5th. You'll log in to Schwab. You'll get your statements from Schwab, etc., etc. And since I'm talking about September 5th, just keep in mind, because the movement will happen in September, you will get a month-end statement from Schwab and TD Ameritrade. They will be overlapping, so just keep that in mind. And after 12/31, I don't know that you'll get year-end statements, but you might from both organizations. But for tax purposes, you will get 1099s and other related documents from both organizations because you were a client of TD Ameritrade and a client of Schwab in 2023. Remember, this is a year from now, not 2 months from now. So in the spring of 24, you'll still get tax documents from TD Ameritrade. So hopefully that, it'll take a while, but everything will eventually settle out and everything is going to be fine. In the shorter term, the next couple of months, we're talking late 2022 and early 2023, there is nothing for you to do. So that's cool. Relax, enjoy your holidays. In the beginning of 23, Schwab will start bringing on and setting up accounts for advisors. And they used a cute little metaphor of building a house, and that's going to be the foundation. So all advisors will have to set up accounts and sign contracts and meet all the requirements that Schwab requires for the registered investment advisors, which is Polaris, and investment advisor representatives, which is someone like Phil, to get all set up at Schwab. Now, the nice thing that I've done is I did that pretty close to a year ago, just so I gave myself more time to learn their system. And it's different. Everything's different. It's not bad. It's TD Ameritrade has some problems where things aren't intuitive, and Schwab has same things. They're just in different places. So if you use the system a lot, you may have to learn it anew and figure out where things are. But I don't think it's that bad. I think it makes sense. Now, one of the nice things is over the last year or two, the TD Ameritrade logon platform has been slowly changing a thing here, a thing there to match a capability that's in Schwab. And a little bit of pain, but over the last year or two, TD Ameritrade has changed a rule or two to match the things that happen at Schwab. So when we eventually get to the actual changeover, there will be less things changing than would have been if they weren't being proactive and changing things before the official transfer over. So that's going to be nice. Around June 1st, June 5th, they expect to do what they've called kind of a snapshot of everything that is on the TD Ameritrade system, and they're going to map that all over to Schwab behind the scenes. So at some point in the late spring or early summer, you will start getting documents from Schwab telling you that they've turned on an account for you. It's okay. It's not the official transfer over. They are going to start building everything at Schwab in June and running things in parallel. There will be a period of time where you will be able to log on to Schwab and see your account, and you'll be able to log on to TD Ameritrade and see your account. Your account will still be officially at TD Ameritrade. Anything that you see at Schwab is a work in progress. This is very important if this applies to you, because you might go look at Schwab and say, oh my God, they have 3 of my 4 accounts, but not the 4th one. It's okay. It's being built. They might be missing a position or missing shares that were bought in an older time or not have cost basis data. All of those things are possible, and they're giving themselves 3 months to build everything in Schwab, and they're building routines, or they already have routines to check to make sure everything is the same at Schwab and at TD Ameritrade, so that when they get to the official switchover weekend in early September, it should be relatively easy. If you find problems after September 5th, of course, you can call Schwab, you can call TD Ameritrade, you can call me, and it'll get worked out. But it's going to be fine. It just might be a little weird for a couple of days. Hopefully, that's all it is. Things in the shorter term, around that June time frame, May, maybe April, you might be, you'll be sent information about new accounts at Schwab, and you might be asked to sign in to Schwab Alliance. I think that's the official name for the portal that you go into to see your accounts. And just like currently at TD Ameritrade, they're your accounts. They're always your accounts. They're not Phil's accounts. They're not Polaris Financial accounts. They're your accounts. They're your name. That doesn't change. You will get new account numbers. Now, there might be, in some cases, problems where that breaks a connection with a bank or another financial institution. Most of my clients don't use the retirement accounts as checking accounts. They don't use their investment accounts as checking accounts. I usually have them have the money go to their bank. So the only thing that might break or not function right away would be the money going from your new Schwab account to your bank account. Although I've been informed they expect that to work. I see that as the most likely, and still not even that likely, but the most likely thing that might not work right away that you would notice. However, if you're following my general advice, you should have a couple of months of money on hand locally to pay your bills. So if that monthly transfer of $4,000 or $5,000 that's supposed to happen on September 8th or September 15th, if it doesn't happen, hopefully it'll get fixed in a day or two. It might require my intervention, your intervention, us calling somebody at Schwab. Hopefully none of that happens. But if it does, I want to make sure that around that time frame, nobody is calling me up and saying, "Oh, Phil, I wrote checks on the money I was assuming was going to hit my bank account." If you're in retirement or close to retirement, you should have a little bit of extra money in your checking account at a local bank, wherever you pay your bills from. So just keep that in mind. One thing that's really nice for advisors and the clients is at this point in time, Schwab expects to near 100% account transfer without repapering. And repapering is the phrase where, let's say you moved from Edward Jones to TD Ameritrade, we have to fill out an application to open up a new account at TD Ameritrade, and then you have to go through the steps of moving money. Not terribly hard, but there is work involved. Everybody that I've heard from Schwab and or TD Ameritrade is confident that that's going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen without you needing to fill out any forms, without me needing to fill out any forms, which is fantastic because with 150 clients, if I have to go through and fill out forms or help people fill out forms, it's going to be a lot of work. We don't want that. So that should move. Of course, they do say there is the possibility that for some weird reason, your account doesn't move over. Keep an eye on that. Look for that. Things that might be odd, as an example, if someone has, there's different states have different rules as to whether you can have a joint tenants account. So if Schwab or if TD Ameritrade wasn't following a certain rule, maybe it was a mistake, an honest mistake, or you moved and you're in a different state and Schwab says no, in that state it has to be a different type of an account, there can always be exceptions. I am expecting, based on what they've told me, that 99% of all accounts are going to move over, maybe even 100%, and just be like they are. If there's any problems, of course, they'll let us know as quick as they can, but that's why you're also going to be diligent and checking. I think virtually every client of mine that is at TD Ameritrade already has the ability to sign in via the internet, via a computer, into their account and see it at TD Ameritrade. If you have not done that, I will try to contact you. I'll have to look at the list. It might be like one or two people. But if you know that's you, let me know. Schwab has said that it's highly recommended that you have the ability to log on to TD Ameritrade before the accounts go to Schwab. And again, I think virtually everyone has done that. As I'm talking here, one other thing that I think would be in your best interest, although Schwab didn't mention it, and it goes with my normal philosophy, if you have any required minimum distributions, RMD, and this would be an account like an IRA, Roth IRA, beneficiary IRA, if you have any of those accounts that require money out in calendar year 2023, I would encourage you to take that money out sooner rather than later. I would even say it should be done by the end of May. Currently at TD Ameritrade, they will give you an estimate of how much money you need to take out from your account based on the RMD required minimum distribution rules. Historically, their number has been pretty good. The thing that TD Ameritrade says and the thing that Phil says is I can't guarantee, TD Ameritrade doesn't guarantee that is the absolute correct number for you. You should, every year, double check with your certified public accountant or qualified agent, someone who knows the tax rules, your tax person, what the exact amount is. It's often exactly what TD Ameritrade said it would be, and that's cool, but I'm not responsible if you don't take out enough. TD Ameritrade is not responsible if you don't take out enough and you have to pay a penalty or taxes. So check with your tax professional on that. It's kind of important. One sheet that some people will do is they'll take out more than necessary. So if you have a beneficiary IRA and it requires that you take out $1,234, you could take out $1,500 and just not fucking worry about it. But that's not official tax advice, by the way. That's just me being lazy. And it will probably work out. But of course, my official advice, check with your tax professional. A couple of reasons you want to do that. One, if you're older, the required minimum distribution you have to take out is a larger percentage of your portfolio. You do not want to be in the position, generally speaking, ignoring the Schwab thing for a moment, you don't want to be in the position where they evaluate your account on 12/31 of 22, and then they calculate, or you calculate, or your tax professional calculates how much money you have to take out, and you don't take it out, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and if the market falls 20, 30, 40%, and you didn't have the cash in the account to take out, and now you have to sell something that's a long-term investment that's lost a lot of money, it could be a little more painful than it should have been. So for me, that's one reason. Now, if you're required by legislation to take out RMDs, and you go ahead and take it out in January, February, March, April, May of 23, you don't have to fucking spend it. I'm thinking maybe you should, because if you're required to take money out, it means you probably have a pretty good-sized portfolio. But you don't have to spend it. You can turn around and reinvest it. And again, if you sold something that was stock in February, you created cash in the account, you took the required minimum distribution, they send you a check, you go to your bank, you deposit the check, treat yourself a little bit. But if you don't want to even do that, turn it around and send it back to your taxable account, and it can be reinvested. You may not qualify to put money into an IRA or Roth IRA because you're probably in retirement and you don't have earned income, so that probably won't be an option. But putting it in the taxable account, it's going to be okay. You have to pay money on you have to pay tax on that money eventually anyway, unless you die. That's really the only way for you to personally avoid it. And of course, if it's in an IRA and it goes to your kids or something, they're eventually going to have to pay tax on it also. So don't get too nutty avoiding taxes. It's not so bad. But just be aware that this is going to happen, and the really important dates for you, RMDs, if you can get them done before the end of the year or before the end of May, that'd be great. That would help me. That would help you. If you have not logged on or created a log on to TD Ameritrade, you should also have that done sooner. I'd do that now. Why put it off? But before the end of May, Schwab will take that snapshot and they'll start building all of the accounts. And at some point, you'll be able to log in. They have told me they expect the login will be the same. Fingers crossed on that. All of your accounts will show up at Schwab over the next couple of months in the summer, June, July, August. You may see things that are missing or wrong or not right yet. That's cool. That's part of the process. You can let me know. We can talk about it. The account numbers will change. I think I said that. There is a possibility that because your account number changes, if you are using your bank to go in and pull money out of TD Ameritrade, once the account number changes to Schwab, that probably will break. If you are using TD Ameritrade to push money to your bank, that probably will not break. So just keep in mind, if you have anything automatic set up, as I'm talking, one other thing that might change going forward and might have to be redone, we might have to fill out forms. There is a possibility that some things that I'm authorized to do in your account at TD Ameritrade, something that you have given me permission to do, like sending you a check or moving money from your TD Ameritrade account to your bank account, some of those things might end. I think that might be even reasonable, so we might have to redo paperwork on that. So that's something to keep an eye on for September and October. Make sure you have a little extra cash on hand at your bank. It's probably not going to be a problem, but it won't hurt you to have a little extra. But I think that's probably the most likely thing that could be. I'm hoping very few problems, but there could be some problems that would materially affect you and cause a potential problem. Make sure you have a login to TD Ameritrade. 6 months from now, in the middle of 2023, when you get documents from Schwab, make sure that you go in and sign on, look at your accounts whenever that becomes available, whether that's June, July, or August. And keep in mind, Labor Day weekend, the first weekend of September, is the official switchover. And as of, first thing in the morning on September 5th, you will formally be a client at Schwab. You will log in to Schwab. Your forms will have Schwab. And going forward, you'll get every tax document and statement that you need from either Schwab or TD Ameritrade for up to a year. And then, of course, you won't see anything with TD Ameritrade. So if you have any questions, let me know. Call or email at any time, especially if you're a client, of course. And I'm just going to wrap up this little segment on how things look when they're planned on the transition from TD Ameritrade to Schwab. The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any action.
We do not accept that there is now or has ever been a holy person, and that includes everyone from Mother Teresa to Moses to Jesus Christ. We call him JC. Mohammed, his daughter Fatima, the angel Moroni, the Pope, any Pope, all of the popes, any oracles, self-appointed or appointed by other persons, or elected by strange men in long red dresses. We do not accept that there is any efficacy in prayer. And we don't care whether they're said by your legislator, George Bush, yourself, myself, a priest, a rabbi, a minister, a guru, or even your mama. Atheists see all of this, first, as being totally subjective and going on only in your little heads, nowhere else. And secondly, we see it basically as simply being silly. We don't hate you. We think you're quite odd. But these are all very ancient, outmoded fables, and we no longer need to cling to them in our modern world. The most difficult thing in the world to do is to live in it. Just to get along with other people. to earn a living, to meet our basic needs. And we do not need encumbered by all of these ideas which bring you a sense of guilt, a sense of inadequacy, of impotence. We need a decent, modern, sophisticated, workable set of standards by which we can get along with ourselves and others.
Hey, poor! You don't have to be poor anymore! Jesus is here!
You're listening to The Bill Ferguson Show.
I think it's on. Rob, can you hear me finally?
I can.
Okay, so you've got all your sound settings right. I think I got mine right.
I believe so.
Okay. Hi everybody. This is Phil, and I have Rob Palmer with me. Oh wait, I'll have to cut that earlier part out. No, I'm just kidding, Rob. How you doing?
Fine.
You're like, what the fuck is going on?
I don't know what you're doing, but
I'm just being a little different. One time I had someone on, and we were pretending to be pirates hijacking or capturing a podcast. It was good fun. So it's just kind of a joke.
Was it Pirate Day? Was it Pirate Day?
No, it wasn't, which makes it so much more special. But for the listeners who don't ever get to listen to any of the pre-show content, because that's just the way I am. I have pre-show content that gets deleted. That's how awesome I am. We were having some real genuine fun with the audio, but I think we've got it all fixed now. So
I can only go by whatever you say because I got no way to tell.
Well, you know what? This is going to be a fucking awesome interview whenever it gets started.
I'm glad we finally hooked up because yesterday I sat there for 20 minutes waiting for you to chime in on Skype and there was no Phil Ferguson.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, I'm going to own that. That was my fuck up. It happens. I make mistakes, and sometimes they're doozies. And again, I apologize. And I'm glad you didn't bring that up during the interview because that could be embarrassing for me.
Well, you have the editing software. So.
No, see that we actually talked about that a little bit too. I generally don't edit. Every once in a while, I'll have somebody that will do things like this where I'll say, so. Tell me about your scientific thesis that you spent 2 years, working on to get your doctorate degree. Well, it was about space. And you're like, go on. You did write a paper on this. Yeah, it was 400 pages. Well, tell us about some of it. Well, I worked on it for.
It was about deep space.
Yeah, I worked on it for 2 years.
Well,
like,
so
wow.
I'm not going to use names here, but interestingly, so SciCon 2022 just ended,
yep.
And I volunteered for Richard Saunders, who could not attend the conference, who does the Skeptics Zone podcast, to take it upon myself, and I interviewed 15 speakers and general attendees, a nice mix, and I heavily audited quite a few of them because some of them were like you're describing, which was quite shocking from speakers yet. I won't use names.
It's a funny thing, and No real knock against CFI, but CFI and CSICon relies very heavily on getting speakers that have written books.
Yes, exactly.
And sometimes people that have written books are amazing presenters. However, sometimes people that have written books are not amazing presenters. And this is not the time or the place to pick on anybody because I think everyone tries their level best and puts their best effort
But
forward.
I got to tell you, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I did not get for an interview for the Skeptics Zone podcast, but I did interview for a pre-conference video interview for my column.
Yeah.
He is amazing as a speaker, as an interviewee, as a writer. He's just an all-around amazing person. He gave an hour-and-a-half presentation at SciCon, and no one was bored. He could have gone on for double that at least.
Well, matter of fact, I think we had to end because the staff had to stage the room for the next day. And they're like,
yes,
I'm sorry, you guys, we're closed. Last call was half an hour ago.
Yeah, get off the stage, Neil.
You have to. And I don't know. Maybe I should call him or find out what he was doing. He did this little bit or this segment about what would science be like, what findings would be revealed if all of the scientists were black and were racist and they were against white people. The stuff that I don't know if he came up with this or he was reading a list, but the ways that a racist black person would describe white people and conduct studies to make them look awful and inferior was a real eye-opener. Because
or comparing, I remember distinctly you put pictures of chimpanzees up because this was in the time frame when Africa essentially was first being charted by the Europeans, and they're comparing the humans in Africa to the chimpanzees. And then he put them up and compared the features of chimpanzees to white people that they just overlook, like they have very thin lips.
Yeah,
and if you brush apart their hair, their skin is white underneath. It's like,
Yeah, and so it's just, it was absurd, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, you have to really pay attention as a scientist or as a communicator to things that you have automatically baked into your view of
biases.
Reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just biases. Yeah. We can't. Everyone has biases, and most people don't realize they have biases.
And one of the biases that you've worked recently on is that sometimes psychics think they have actual powers.
Brilliant segue.
Yeah, I try. But it's funny because I did listen to you and Mr. Saunders, Richard Saunders, on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Free plug, by the way.
Yeah,
you're welcome, Seth.
That was a fantastic coup. Yeah. I had actually interviewed Seth for my column in Skeptical Inquirer, and so we remained a little bit in contact. So I felt a little funny about reaching out to him to do this subject because it's not quite his in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But he thought it was a great idea. So he had both me and the guy who ran the project, Richard Saunders, on for an interview. It was great.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's go back in the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey machine here to several years ago. And Richard Saunders
had on the inside.
Yeah, had this idea about collecting predictions that psychics were making. And let's start the story there. Rob, what happened?
Yeah. So, the thing is skeptics are fond of saying, just poo-pooing psychics, and it's obviously not real, and anyone could tell that. But most people actually, if not most, fair near majority believe in psychic powers.
Yeah.
Anytime you do a survey, it's 40%, 45%, and depending how you ask the question, sometimes it seems like it's over 50. But there's no real data on that in any large numbers, and so he thought it would be great to have like with any scientific study or analysis, the more data you have, the more likely you're going to reach a reasonable answer. So he decided he would start collecting the published predictions of psychics from his country, Australia. And he started with, he had to pick some time frame, so he started with anything that was for the year 2000 and on. And he started this years ago, and it kept getting longer and longer. And by the time he decided, okay, I think I have enough here, we got to end this and start scoring the predictions, we were into 2020. So he had collected, nearly 4,000 predictions. And by collected, he went to the trouble of going to national libraries and looking at archives and asking for copies of magazines that he would then photocopy, or if it was an audio thing, he would get an audio recording and put it in his database. He wanted to have a copy of every single thing he was going to write down. So if it was challenged later, he didn't have to try to go find it again. He would have it there.
Yeah, and I think that's a real clever thing. Of course, you're limiting yourself to the really good psychics that happen to be in magazines, right?
You would think so.
Yeah.
People who get paid to do this by national television shows and magazines, yeah.
Yeah, and so he documented all this, collected thousands. Was it 5,000, 6,000?
Well, so it actually started with a number, by the time we got to start the scoring. It was about, I want to say 3,500.
Yeah.
But because of the way psychics tend to predict things, like, I predict this will happen, and this will happen in A and B and C and X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And they say it in one long sentence. So when we sat down to score them, we said, well, those are all separate things. Let's break them up. And therefore, the number in the database kept increasing as we worked on this for years. And it wound up being 3,811 by the end.
Nice. And just to jump ahead, there there were some things that were obvious. The sun's going to come up. I know one of the things that you said was obvious was that, either Hillary Clinton or Trump will win the presidential election. And of course, this is published.
Yeah, that was actually was a prediction that said it was for this the most recent election. Yeah. The one that was stolen, not. It said that either Trump or Biden would win. It is up to the people to decide. Yeah. And that was like 2 weeks before the election.
And that's not really a on the edge of your seat kind of prediction because and then of course
as I said when I mentioned this at SciComm when I did this presentation, if the person had said, hey, and by the way, the president will be the first to refuse to accept the results and want to stay in power and form a coup to overthrow the new administration, like that would have been some prediction, but no, that's not in the database.
Yeah, or my fantasy was that one of the predictions would come true, and that was that after a few months on the job, that Trump would get so frustrated he would just walk off.
You liked that one, didn't you?
And he'd quit.
Yeah, My point there was when I said that one is like these people are so bad they don't even understand the personality that's in public record of the people they're making predictions about. Yeah, that one specifically is, let's see where it goes. Donald Trump will resign out of the blue in 2019, early 2020.
Yeah. Magari. That's the Italian phrase. I love it. I love stealing it. It's just like, if only. I wish.
Well, so here's the other one about that from the same, this is earlier, from 2017. So it was for 2017, was made in 2016, some point. I don't know the exact time right here. Donald Trump, who is a Gemini, according to his horoscope, will make a good president. His chart is starting exceptionally well on a positive note.
Well, the funny thing is, I guess 35% of the population or more actually agrees with that.
That is a good point.
But that's a different show.
But if you try to quantify what makes a good president, I don't see how firing everyone who ever works for him, getting his lawyers to get other lawyers. I mean, I don't know how that makes a good president.
Yeah. Well, you're just using the wrong criteria. So
apparently I am.
But when you got to the end, and we can talk more of the details, but when you got to the end and these were all scored, what percentage of the predictions came true?
So if you throw out so let me explain that we had categories of they were correct, they were wrong, they were unknown. It was a very small percent. It's like people predicting things in the far future for someone, and we haven't gotten to that date yet. Like there's no way of checking, or it was some very personal thing. Yeah. Like there was one about a Hollywood celebrity doing bad with her finances or great with her finances. Like in 2000, how are we going to check that? Right. Hey, it was Sharon Stone. Hey Sharon, can we have the contact information for your financial advisor? We can check this prediction. No. Sure. So we marked that as unknown. It's only 2%, not a big part of the database. But a huge number were expected, like the things you said, the sun will come up tomorrow. Not quite, but almost that bad. Yeah. 15% of predictions in that range. So we throw those out. Too vague. Some wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey thing, which you don't even know what the hell they mean. 18%. So you throw all those out, you look at correct, and you only get 11%. And flat out wrong, 53%.
Wow. That's not good.
Right. And one of the things, like we said, is like 11%. Well, how do you know if that's good or bad? Well, would you go to any service person, an auto mechanic who gets things right 11% of the time, or a doctor, or like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah. Well, and of course, you're taking out the moments where the mechanic looks at your car and says, I turned the key, it won't start. And you would say,
no battery in it?
Yeah, no shit, that's why I'm here. I told you that.
So we're also taking, the 11% includes all of the predictions, which, to be fair, I did look this up later. It wasn't a large number, but it would have changed it by 1 or 2%, were coin flip predictions. Like the one about Biden and Trump, right? Like one of those two people was going to win the presidency. Horse races, actually horse races would be not quite 50-50. Usually
if there's two horses, it would.
Well,
maybe.
It doesn't usually happen.
Not even that.
The World Series or some tournament in Australia is about to happen, and there's only 2 teams left. Yeah. And they predict which team is going to win. Well, it's 50-50. If you did all of your guesses like that, hey, your prediction results would be 50%. And you look like a genius. But actually, it's interesting. They didn't make a lot of those predictions. At least those weren't captured in our database.
Yeah. So 11%, that's not, that's not something to write home about, is it?
No, considering that means the other, put it all together, 53% were wrong, expected were 15, too vague were 18. It's like the huge majority were just not correct or ridiculous predictions.
Now, I don't recall if it was you or Richard Saunders who said something about not all psychics are actual genuine charlatans, and some genuinely, truly believe that they have skills. Was that you or Richard? Do you share that opinion?
We might have come up on the Thinking Atheist podcast, perhaps. Yeah, this comes up a lot. I've given this presentation elsewhere, and when there was a Q&A, that kind of question does come up. It's interesting. I've talked to different people, like Mark Edward, who's actually a professional mentalist, and he used to work for the Psychic Friends Network to see what was going on the inside. I believe his opinion is that they all know what they're doing. So I feel awkward disagreeing with him, but I think I've met people who probably believe themselves, just in a few people I've met.
Yeah, and I think there is a bias towards the random small-time person that can genuinely believe their own bullshit, that they're actually onto something. They don't know how it works. But when you get to professional grade people that are working for police departments and selling out auditoriums, I find it incredulous that they
absolutely.
That they don't know.
And to be fair, that's more the people Mark had contact with, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
So the few people I've met, and I'll give you a perfect example. Kenny Biddle, who is also did a presentation at PsyCon.
Yeah.
He's ghost hunter turns paranormal skeptical investigator. Is now in fact the chief investigator for PsyCon for CFI. Just got that promotion. I don't know if you heard about that.
I did. I just interviewed him, by the way.
Very cool. Looking forward to hearing that.
I don't know if that'll be before or after this interview, so I'm going to predict that Kenny Biddle will soon be on the show. or wait,
100% correct.
I'm going to predict that he will either soon be on the show or was just on the show.
Now that's a little vague.
Yeah. I'm covered.
So I was invited to his house the last PsyCon because he was going to give a workshop and he wanted a dry run of his presentation. He invited some skeptics and some people from his former life, paranormal people who were still ghost hunters and whatever. And I went, and in fact, the other skeptics couldn't come for some reason at the last minute. And I was the only skeptic there, and there were 6 or so people from the other world who sat through his presentation, gave him feedback, and then most of them left, and it wound up being me and Donna, his wife, Kenny's wife, and 2 of the women who had come who were both ghost investigators and believed they were psychic mediums too. And I got to talk about it for quite a while, especially one of them stayed even later than the other one. I had to eventually leave. And, Kenny and I were doing kind of a polite questioning of why she believes it and what are her examples. And, she doesn't charge money. She does it for friends when she gets the feelings and things like that. And I think she believes she is.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I don't know if you and I talked about it. I think I recently mentioned this on the show, or I am about to in another episode.
You did cold readings.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I've done cold readings, and I've decided I will never ever do it again because I had a couple of occurrences where it went south really, really quickly, where I ended up getting into personal detail of people's lives accidentally, things that I didn't want to talk about, things that they didn't want to talk about, things that were painful and embarrassing. And in one occasion, I simply reinforced the idea that psychics are real, because even after I explained to somebody step by step exactly what I did, they said, "Oh, I get it. You don't want people to know." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "No, I'm trying." Oh my God! So I played that game. I'm done. I'm not doing it again because.
Have you ever heard Penn talk about that kind of a thing?
Penn Jillette?
Yes.
I have not heard that specific thing. What's going on?
So it's similar. So he and actually went to their show the last time we went to the conference, and they stand outside in the hallway and will spend time with all the guests as they're leaving. It's very nice of them. And so Penn has told the story of people will come up to him after the show and say, "That's amazing how you did that bullet trick. Come on, admit you have magic powers."
Ah, yes, I have heard that. Yeah.
No. It was an illusion, but I can't tell you how I did. No, come on. Why don't you want to tell me the truth? Oh my God, people just want to believe stuff.
Yeah, and I used to think that was a very small part of the population, but recently maybe I'm a little bit of a downer, but I think it's gotten worse. And there's reasons we could discuss in another episode for that. But anyway, so there's this big project, Psychic Predictions, over a decade, from Australia, published predictions that Richard Saunders and his helpers can document.
2 decades, by the way.
Oh, 2 decades. And the success rate is 11%, which is taking into consideration the number of coin flips and variables involved, is about what you would get from chance on this.
Yeah. So as you know, Richard Saunders summarized it. He did a talk about this at the Bay Area Skeptics, and I watched it, and he had some very good points. So in my longer presentation, I actually play a little video clip of him giving his summary, and it's basically that he said, don't take this as career advice, people, but to be a successful psychic that people are going to believe you, make a lot of vague predictions, make a lot of expected predictions. Take wild, specific guesses at things that you don't really think are going to happen, but might. If you make enough of them, some of them are going to come true. And then what happens is you only point to the ones that came true.
Yeah.
You forget you made 99% of nonsense guesses or wrong guesses. But I guessed that correct. I have powers.
Well, I guess they could ignore the 89% that weren't true and just focus on the 11%.
And the media is complicit in this because all of these were published, right? They were paid for in some sense by some source who wanted to fill time, fill text in a magazine, fill airtime, and they don't go back in the next year and check. They just invite them on again to make more predictions. So we did that work.
Well, it's just like newspapers have on your horoscope. It's all bullshit, and it's now, thankfully for the psychics, it's been tested and rated, and it's no longer us just saying this can't work, it doesn't work, and we're not saying that. We're saying here's the math, here's the numbers. We went in not to debunk this, although it was all skeptics on the panel who were looking at these. We looked at them open. If it was true, we would mark them true. We marked the ones correct that were correct. And as I said in the conference when I gave this, if the results were that 89% of the predictions were right, that's what you would be seeing now. Sorry, that's not what happens. And so you gave, of course, this talk at the not the amazing meeting. Oh my God, CSICon. They're going to be mad at me now. CSICon, CSICon. It was funny. I ran into random people in the hotel, the Flamingo, where the event was held this year, and they would say, "Is this like connected to CSI?" And I'm like, yeah, the Center for Inquiry or whatever. And they're like, no, like CSI Las Vegas, CSI New York,
right,
CSI Miami. And I'm like, oh my God, how many times I've heard SciCon or CSICon. I never made that connection because I only occasionally through my life accidentally seen a few episodes of those shows. But I was like, oh, I wonder how much we could play on that and get away with it.
Ooh, interesting idea.
Yeah. Just have the theme be related to the shows. I don't know. That's probably copyright infringement of some kind. But
so besides, by the way, the atrocious success rate of these thousands and thousands of people done by hundreds of psychics. Some of the things that they say that were going to happen are just abysmally incorrect, and like one of the ones that got a good laugh when I said it, so I'll mention it here. And this is particularly funny because these psychics often have their own social media sites, web pages, and they rate their own predictions every year.
Of course they do.
I showed that.
Yeah.
They check off which ones they think they got right.
I know where you're going.
And
tell me.
Yeah. And so there is one of the psychics who's a lot in the database, Kerry Culkins, and we pulled up her stuff, and from 2001, she's got like 20 on this page, and they're all checked off. Yes, yes, yes. I got all these right. And you get to look at some of them. We may be able to get free energy from empty space by harnessing the magnetic field. So that was 20-something years ago. It hasn't happened yet that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it's a
conspiracy. And she marked it off. Yeah, that happened. In 2001, she checked off that happened. Then, using anti-gravity to lift heavy objects will become a reality instead of a dream. These people are on some kind of amazing drugs.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know moving furniture around the house, the couch, repositioning the couch.
Did you see the sale on Black Friday and Amazon Prime last time? You could buy one of these things for just $50. It's amazing.
Yeah, and so small that it fits in your pocket.
It's like the Jetsons. It's in a wristwatch. You push a button and a beam comes out, or a tractor beam like on Star Trek.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
where can
amazing.
people go to find all this detail and the numbers and the analysis? Is there a good, convenient location where it's all hosted?
So as we were working on this, and several of us, our authors in different magazines, Richard published his final results in the magazine from Australia, Skeptic. Adrian Hill did a preliminary version of that, and I did one for both the print version and the online version of Skeptical Inquirer, which has links to the other one. So let me tell you how they can Google. It's called Pondering the Published Predictions of Prominent Psychics. I tried to do a lot of alliteration, but unfortunately psychics is pronounced with a soft P. Pondering the Published Predictions of Prominent Psychics by Rob Palmer. And it's got all the details that we're talking about and more, and also links to the original report written by Richard Saunders, etc.
And if someone has a local or regional or even a national group and they want you to come and tell them more at a conference or at a meeting, how can they reach you?
Yes, I have a Facebook page, The Well-Known Skeptic.
And, of course, the name is Rob, real simple, R-O-B, Palmer.
Right. And I did a Linktree page recently, which has all of my work, my online articles, video interviews of scientists and speakers, the Skeptic Zone thing, all things like that. And I don't know if people are familiar with Linktree, which is LINKTR.EE. I don't know why they do that.
I don't either.
It's the word Linktree is one word, but there's a period before the last two E's, / The Well-Known Skeptic.
Excellent. Now, is there anything that you wanted to cover that we haven't yet done before we wrap up?
Let's see. Well, I guess why does this matter is a good thing, right?
Sure.
People, these guys get paid to go on TV shows, or they're publicizing themselves by doing that. They write magazines, and who cares if people believe this? Well, the last time you and I talked was the reason this is important, and I don't know what episode the number was that was, but people can find me, I'm sure, by looking in your list of podcasts. We talked about the harm in believing in psychics. What is the harm in believing in this? What befalls people, when this is their mindset that this stuff is real, and it's really can be devastating, including financially, which is the other topic of your show.
Right.
People have lost their life savings because they believe these people and trust them to the point where they're scammed out of literally millions of dollars, their life savings, hundreds of thousands in some cases, tens of thousands if that's all they have, because these people trick them into thinking they're connected with the future and they can tell them what's going to happen or the afterlife. And if you believe this stuff, and it's reinforced by what you see, these predictions in newspapers and magazines on TV, it's more likely you're going to go into your neighborhood psychic and be taken.
I agree. Excellent ending point. Rob Palmer, thank you so much for sharing some time and coming to visit on the Phil Ferguson Show.
Thank you for having me on again for this important topic, Phil.
The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions. Thank you very much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. If you could go somewhere and give a 5-star review, Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, I think, is the other platform that I know of. If you know of another place, let me know. I do have some fun things coming up, more interviews scheduled, and another one already recorded. And we are also going to go over, I haven't done this in a while, so I thank one of my listeners in advance. I'll do it in another episode. Church money, where people can grab a P&L, a cash flow statement, a financial report, whatever, from a church that they're in. And this person was required to go into a church to vote, which, this shouldn't ever happen. That's bullshit. If that's the only place you can find, you should not have to go into a church to go vote. But if you are forced to go into a church to go vote, look around in the greeting area, the lobby, the hallways. Often churches will have their budget or financial information freely available to its members, its worshipers, its victims, whatever you want to call them. And if you're in the building and it's out on the table, I say pick one up, have a laugh, or even better, send it to me, upload it as a PDF, and send it to phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com, and we can go over it, and you'll find out, because I've done this maybe a dozen times over the years, most churches, in general, we're talking about 0 to 10% of the money they raise going to charity. Now, maybe you didn't really think about where your money goes if you give money to a church, but it's a giant building that has overhead. There's air conditioning, there's heat, there's paint, there's a new roof, there's a new boiler. These things take maintenance, and that stuff's not free. People don't give away their services to churches anymore. If you have a minister or a pastor, they're getting paid somehow. An office manager, an office secretary, a janitor, other people that come in and do work, some of them will do it for free, but others get paid. There are, if it's on a big piece of property, at minimum it's got to get mowed, but they might actually have some landscaping that's got to be maintained, and sometimes people will do that for free also, but often people want to get paid for their labor. So churches have a lot of bills and a lot of expenses, and when you get down to the bottom of it, the amount that goes out the door to quote-unquote help people is very small, and then often the bulk of that is to provide some service with a hook, some service that requires you to sit down and listen to a sermon, some service that requires that you read the Bible, or you have to go to their place and attend worship. It's all just a giant self-funding racket that doesn't really provide anything, but it convinces you that it does. So, yeah, I'm negative on religion and churches, so I've said it. There, it's on record. I guess I'm never getting elected. Speaking of elections, fun times here in the United States. The Senate was just won by the Democrats, or I guess 50 out of 100, 50% or more, maybe 51, Democrats have been elected to the Senate. So the Democratic Party, quote-unquote, controls the Senate, because even if there's a tie at 50-50, the Vice President of the United States is the tie-breaking vote. Them's the rules. In the House, it is also incredibly tight, and it looks like the Republicans will gain control of that by a couple of members. It also looks like that the vast majority of election deniers and people who are willing to overturn elections and do favors for Donald Trump lost. I don't think it's all of them, but it's a lot of people. It turns out that if you tell people that voting is meaningless and fraudulent and it doesn't really count, well, then the people that follow you and believe you don't vote. So maybe that's a self-eliminating philosophy, maybe, unless you're Donald Trump. And even there, it didn't help him get reelected. He, of course, has now announced that he's running for president, and the Republican Party, not everybody's on board the Trump train this time, and maybe they're on the other train that's even worse, which might be DeSantis, because he's Trump but kind of intelligent. So who knows? We're going to have a fun couple of years. And the big question for me is Biden going to run again? I float back and forth on this, but I think Biden should do, and maybe in the spring or summer of 23, he should do what Nancy Pelosi just did. And in case you didn't hear it, Nancy Pelosi said that she will not seek re-election as I think it's the minority whip, the minority leader for the House, because the Democrats are not in charge anymore. 4 years ago, she said she would serve only 4 more years in that capacity, and she's honoring that commitment. And not only her, but her 2 top-ranking leaders, all 3 of them, which are over 80, are no longer going to be in charge of the House, and it's going to new members that I think 2 are in their 50s and 1 is in their 40s. I mean, I don't want 25 and 35-year-olds doing it, not necessarily, but I think it's time for some younger people, and this helps offset the visual and the management of the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party, where the Republican Party still has the turtle Mitch McConnell, who's probably, 90, or at least he looks like it, running things for the Republican Party. So anyway, if you value having health care, if you value having bodily autonomy, if you value the ability to marry who you want, love is love, I don't know why the Republican Party still exists in this country. That is a great concern. A topic for another episode. I'm kind of waxing on here, but the stock market has recovered some. All this political stuff, all cryptocurrency, Twitter, a lot of interesting things going on. I'm going to wrap up here, and I do thank you very much for listening to the show. And again, if you like it, go give a 5-star review or share the show with a friend, or at least forward the posts on Facebook. Oh, I wonder if I have to go turn off my link to share this on Twitter. Maybe I'll just leave it and see what happens. But anyway, I do hope to see you out there in the world sometime soon. Until then, ciao.
Don't be hating on me when I show them love. We live living holy. It ain't no thing. So put your hands in the air and let that shoulder hang. I'm going global, cause you don't know me. I'm buying babies like Angelina Jolie. So quit that hugging and slow down, mama. And hit my fist like President Obama. Now, Democratic shift in the Congress. Free book. Democratic shift in the Congress. Free book. Democratic shift in the Congress. Free book. Give me that Christian side hug. That Christian side hug. Give me that Christian side hug. That Christian side hug. I'm a rough rider. Filled up with Christ love. Give me that Christian side hug. That Christian side hug. Give me that Christian side hug. That Christian side hug. Give me that Christian side hug. That Christian side hug. I'm a rough rider. Filled up with Christ love. Give me that Christian side hug. That Christian side hug. I'm a married man. You know I can't hold hands. Front hug all day long with no other demands. But I ask for all of you until you say I do. No front hugging or PDA or your easy time is through. But some of y'all are slick, try to pull this trick. Your hug starts from the side, but soon it turns legit. So if you end up here, then go ahead and scream it. When I hug people, I leave room for the Holy Spirit. If a girl walks up with her arms spread wide, and she's front hug down without looking her eyes, you better turn to the side, pat her on the back. Jesus never hugged. Buddy like that, screaming that Christian